Hey guys, the other day Doug DeMuro posted a video kind of explaining everything that's going on with BMW right now. And honestly, there's kind of some stuff going on. He outlined two key points, issues with BMW right now. One is their brand desirability, and two is their plan for electrifying all their models. And I've linked the video in the description. I highly recommend you go check it out. And at the end of that video, after explaining everything that BMW is struggling with right now, Doug DeMuro is like, and I don't know what the solution is, but in this video, I'm going to suggest what I would do if I was BMW to fix this brand desirability issue that BMW has, as well as their future of electrification. So let's dive right on in. First, let's talk about desirability, because I think this is the easier topic to discuss. Doug DeMuro pointed out in that video that about 20 years ago was peak BMW. Their models were the best back then, and everyone wanted a BMW. All like young people, their cars that they dreamed of were BMWs. Nowadays, millennials and Gen Zers, the cars they want are Teslas. Everyone wants a Tesla, and BMWs have kind of fallen behind. Doug DeMuro described it as they're on the outside looking in, and that's troubling for BMW. And there are three things, relatively simple things, that I think BMW could do to help fix their brand image. One thing that sets BMW apart from the other Germans is that they don't have a halo car. They don't have this $200,000 plus car that is the peak of their brand. Audi has the R8, Mercedes has the AMG GT and the G-Wagon and like the Maybachs, frankly, and Porsche has the 911s, and frankly, every Porsche can be spec'd to over $200,000. Porsches are incredibly expensive. The fact that these other German brands have these super nice, super expensive models drives the sales of their less expensive models. When you're buying a Mercedes GLB, you're practically buying a G-Wagon. When you're buying an Audi A3, you're practically buying an R8, right? But when you're buying a BMW, there isn't that caliber of vehicle that you can compare what you're buying your car to. Like, they have the M8 competition. That's probably the most expensive car they have right now. And they have the M760i and a few Alpinas, but there isn't that level, that basically supercar level that Audi, Mercedes, and Porsche have. And that's easily rectifiable, easily. BMW needs to make a halo car. They need to make a car that celebrities drive, that's $200,000 plus, that competes with the R8, the Huracan, the Ferrari F8, the Mercedes AMG GT, the Porsche 911. They need a car that can really go head to head with these supercars, right? And the i8, I think, was supposed to kind of fill that gap, but it really didn't. I mean, an M340i is just as fast as an i8. It looks like a supercar for sure. It has that halo car look to it, but it really fell short in the performance department. And supposedly they may be coming out with an i8M, that might be in the works. But whatever they do come out with, a halo car would do wonders for BMW. It would make their less expensive yet higher volume sales vehicles, like the X1, like the 3 Series, like the X5, it would make those cars more desirable because people would associate those cars with their high caliber supercar, with the super expensive vehicle halo car that they're making. So that's the first thing BMW should do. They should make a halo car. The second thing that BMW could do to increase the desirability of their brand is something that Audi has done phenomenally well in the past roughly 10 years, and that's attach the brand to a movie franchise, right? Audi is now synonymous with Iron Man, Spider-Man. Basically, the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe now almost revolves around Audi. Marvel benefits, Audi benefits. Audis are cooler because they're seen in the Marvel movies, and Marvel movies are cooler because they have Audis in it. It's this perfect partnership. It's the same thing with Aston Martin and James Bond, right? BMW needs a movie or TV franchise that does this. And the BMWs have been in movies before. I mean, they've been in like the Mission Impossible movies, but they need a franchise that's coming out with movies or TV shows constantly, like the MCU was with Audi. That was great for Audi. It was tremendous for Audi to have this marketing campaign of these movies that are coming out all the time that have your favorite superheroes in them, right? So BMW needs something like that. And I don't think this is as hard as it may seem. World building in the TV and movie industry is huge right now. You know, developing these rich worlds. Think about MCU, think about Star Wars, Game of Thrones with these new prequels coming out. Heck, like even Percy Jackson, they're coming out with a TV series, and billions of dollars are on the line for these movie and TV producers. BMW needs to attach themselves to one of these new franchises. They need to become synonymous with the characters and be seen in movies and shows that people love, right? If you can do that, that will do wonders to the desirability of the brand. People love Audi right now because it's what Tony Stark drove. Tony Stark drove R8s. And Nick Fury drove an e-tron in like the Spider-Man Far From Home. And like that made me want an e-tron, even though I don't like crossovers and like it's a okay electric vehicle. Seeing Nick Fury drive it, well, that made it cool. BMW needs something like that. It will do wonders. And there's tons of world building going on right now. I think BMW could reasonably find the right show, find the right movie franchise that would get them the attention that they need right now. The third thing that BMW could do to really increase the desirability of their brand, especially among young people, because that's what Doug DeMuro was pointing out, that BMW really wants to attract young buyers right now. And they tried to do that through tweets, through this electric crossover, the iX that is kind of ugly. But what they really could do to attract young buyers is connecting with influencers. The influencers are people that young people see every day on their phones, on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, right? If you could get influencers to drive cool BMWs, that would do wonders to increase the desirability of BMW for young people. Influencers right now, all influencers drive are Teslas and G-Wagons. If you could get, like, say, Charli D'Amelio driving around in an M4, think of how many more people would now want to drive a BMW. Even if they end up only buying an X1, that's still good for BMW. So having all these very influential, hip, modern, young people driving around in cool BMWs would do wonders for BMW and the younger audience that BMW wants to attract. So those are the three things I would have BMW do to increase the desirability of their brand. Make a halo car, attach themselves to a movie or TV show franchise to really get their brand out there, and have more influencers drive their cars. You know, sponsor influencers to drive BMWs. Doing those three things would really help increase the desirability of their brand and their awareness of their brand and a desirability for the younger audience. Okay, so that's the first half of what Doug's video was about. The second half, and far more complicated half, was about the electric transition of BMW, right? All car companies right now are starting to make electric vehicles because, frankly, in 15, 14 years now, a few governments are banning the sale of gas vehicles. 2035, I think, for UK and California, right? Car companies really need to make electric vehicles, and they need to make them fast. Traditional auto manufacturers are really struggling with this transition right now, and BMW is no exception. And I have a few ideas for what BMW specifically could do to transition their lineup. Overall, I am not a fan of having new sub-brands created for the electric transition of vehicles on traditional auto manufacturers. And almost all the Germans have done this. BMW has I, Mercedes has EQ, Audi has e-tron. I'm not a fan of this. I think car companies should take their models that have heritage and history and slowly start to transition them into electric vehicles. Because car companies, if electric vehicles are the future, which car companies have kind of decided and governments have kind of decided, then car companies are going to keep these models that have that heritage and history in the future. And even if electric vehicles aren't the future, and in like 20 years, say, hydrogen takes over or some other completely different form of powering cars takes over, you can then just transition these model names into that new powertrain. Like, I think it's stupid that companies aren't doing this more and that they're making these new models. And I get it's like a marketing thing partially, but I think especially BMW should take the models they have and just electrify them slowly and methodically to get the customer base used to this electrification. Here in the US, we really don't have any electric cars from BMW. I mean, we had the i3 and the i8, but those are now kind of obsolete. We have a whole bunch of plug-in hybrids, but there aren't really any full electric cars. And supposedly that's going to change with the iX. But again, The iX, it's about the size of an X5, I think. Why did they not just call it the iX5? This is what I'm saying. Creating all these new models that complicates these naming structures that people try to understand, it just makes everything so much more complicated. So what I would do if I was BMW, next time the 3 Series, let's use the 3 Series as an example. Next time the 3 Series needs to be redesigned, redesign it with a gas version, with a hybrid, and maybe this gas version is a regular hybrid, just to start getting everyone used to the electric nature, and make an all-electric version, right? Start to slowly push people in this direction, and then maybe in the next generation you only offer a plug-in hybrid and a fully electric, and then the generation after that you only offer all electric. This slow and methodical transition of your current lineup into electric vehicles is, I think, the best way, the cleanest way, the smoothest way to transition a lineup of all internal combustion engine vehicles to a lineup of all electric vehicles. I think all car companies should do this, and BMW no exception. And it sounds like they're kind of doing this, but only half-heartedly. Like, we have the iX3 in Europe. We don't have that here in the US. They're maybe coming out with an i7, but then you have this iX. It's all very confusing, which confuses customers, which turns them away from the products. If they don't understand what a product is, customers are much less likely to buy it. So, transition your lineup slowly, methodically to electric vehicles. And the second thing BMW should do to help electrify their lineup is invest or buy an electric car startup. I mean, there's 10 electric startups for every traditional auto manufacturer right now. And for some reason, starting from scratch produces better results than a traditional auto manufacturer trying to then create their own electric car, as we've seen with Tesla. And Rivian and Lucid have yet to actually produce production car, but supposedly that's happening for both brands this year. And their specs are way better than any traditional auto manufacturer, what vehicles that traditional auto manufacturers have made. Ford actually did this with Rivian. Ford invested $500 million into Rivian, and Rivian was going to make an electric SUV on its platform, an electric Lincoln SUV on its platform. That's no longer happening, I think due to COVID or something like that. But I think if BMW did this, if they invested $500 million, let's just say Lucid, and they built a 7 Series off of the Lucid platform, one, all of that R&D, most of that R&D is already done with this company. There's all this technology that BMW would be gaining access to, and all this knowledge that BMW would be gaining access to, which would help them then produce their own electric vehicles. If BMW were to invest in an electric startup, I think it would do wonders to their own electrification plan. It would make their electric vehicles better, and it would help customers be more comfortable with buying an electric BMW. So that's what I personally would do if I were BMW. For the desirability of their brand, I would make a halo car, attach the brand to a franchise, movie, TV show franchise, and reach out to more influencers to have more influencers driving around with BMWs. And then for electrification, I would slowly, methodically switch the lineup from internal combustion engines to electric cars to coax the customer base into these and make them comfortable with electric vehicles. And then I would also, as BMW, invest or buy in an electric car startup that will help BMW create better electric vehicles. Doing these things would increase the desirability of the brand and help smooth BMW's transition to electric vehicles. I think they're not that difficult. It would take, I feel like, more money, research and development wise, to create these all new models like the iX instead of just electrifying current models. So that's what I would do. I like BMW, don't get me wrong. As Doug DeMuro said in his introduction, BMW is everyone's second favorite German car brand, and that's very true. Audi is my favorite, BMW is my second favorite, right? And there are these easy steps. I think they're relatively easy. They're not like drastic restructuring of the company levels of intensity, right? There are these relatively easy steps that can be taken to make BMW people's favorite German car brand, right? Yeah, that's really all I have to say. Check out Doug's video, it's very interesting. If you're from BMW, you can hire me. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.